Just a quick overview of the SAIMC, Promoting Automation in South Africa. It's a voluntary association of the Engineering Council. We're a board member of the Automation Federation, and our vision is education and training. We spent 21% of our fees this year on the youth. Then growth, of course, and thought leadership with Industry 4.0, and there we are on one of the working presidential working groups on Industry 4.0. These are our national members, and this is just a spider web of how we are interfacing with the rest of the automation world. I would like to kick off this presentation by looking at industry challenges. The industry has got quite a number of challenges that they have to address, and that is that customers say they want it and they want it now. And unfortunately, this is true for graduates as well. They are no longer interested in getting graduates and teaching them how to do the job. They want students, graduates coming out of education that actually knows what's going on. What industry will do is teach them how the SASOL process works or the ESCOM process, but the automation equipment, they must be specialists in that. And if you cannot satisfy my need, I will find a place who will. And then last, cut costs to increase profits. Now this has an impact on education as well, as we will see a little later on. And then of course all this happened to industry. I say it happened to industry, but I think industry caused a lot of this as well. Cloud computing, cybersecurity, etc. So now industry spends a lot of time, even years, to get graduates from where they come out of education, to get them working in automation. And unfortunately, industry has removed themselves from tertiary education, which is a big problem. So unfortunately, a lot of things then happened because they were not giving education what they needed. They couldn't get the research from the education institutions, and most of the research currently happening in industry is actually happening by industry and not by education. And the technical equipment and research is now mostly the domain of the company's own research and development divisions. Now, this is industry's proposal. We will assist in developing the curriculum and course material. In the past, education came to industry and said, listen, please give us equipment. We need to teach people on equipment. But the roles have changed a little bit now. Firstly, before industry can provide any equipment to education, they first want to see what the curriculum looks like. Show us the curriculum, we will work with you on the curriculum, and then we can talk about the rest. So industry's proposal is we will give education the latest equipment, we will give education, train the trainer training, education will must then give us experts in the technology. And then industry will teach the graduates the industry itself, which is entirely a different ball game than in the past. And if we look at education, education has up to now been very solid approach, and there's a very good reason for it. I'm just going to go through all of this. There were electric motors, and there were mechanical devices, and there were chemical processes, and people were trained in each of these disciplines. And that is very nice. You could actually get people coming from education that exactly knew how electricity worked. They could put in electricity everywhere. And just the Y2K project, everybody said that was a big farce, but I can tell you now that I was at Maartens, which is now Petra's A, when the Y2K project came. And if we didn't do something, set the clock back on the FA platform, that control system would have locked everybody out on the evening of the end of 1999, because that is how the profiles were set up. So we changed the date back because they couldn't shut the platform down. To shut the platform down, you first have to wait for the onshore platform, onshore refinery to be shut down, and then you can shut down the platform. So there was just that one case that we know about, and I was one of the people that sat there in the control room waiting for the Y2K terror to come and hit Australia, and came across and said nothing happening, nothing happening, nothing happening. And we thought, oh, gee, please don't let us be the idiots who fell into this trap. And the reason I'm mentioning this is that I was responsible for the Y2K project across the whole Petro SA. And we went to the mechanical people. They had nothing in their equipment that was influenced by Y2K. We went to the chemical people. They had nothing. The only people that were influenced was the automation, electricity guys. But I can tell you now, if that happened now, today, we would have had serious problems. Because electronics is nowadays in everything. Okay, so then for many years, South Africa industry supported local education. Now, unfortunately, what then happened is the industry started picking up a lot of problems. One of them is, if you go to an industry board meeting today, they talk about two things. They talk about their market share, and they're talking about interest before interest and tax. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about whether the people have got the right education, whether the HR people are looking after their salaries and all that stuff. That's not board issues, that's operational. The board talks about earnings before interest and tax, and they're talking about market share. So this means education went totally out the window. And if the universities ask for people to come to sit on their committees, they normally send the HR people to see if they can get some people to come and work for them. So it was a one-way street. So this meant that the equipment of the laboratories became outdated and forced the lecturers to teach the basics only, because they only had basic stuff. They didn't have the latest technology, and they didn't have the training on the latest technology. Another thing that happened is very few lecturers, very few industry people actually left industry and went to do lecturing, which means that the lecturers, there were not many of them that actually had industry experience. And it's not a fault of anybody, it's just the fact that people who are industry are not very good teachers, and teachers cannot pick up industry issues without going to industry and see what's happening there. So now education institutions are largely government focused, and they are paid by the amount of product they produce. If you put one graduate through, you get R1. If you put two through, you get R2. They don't go and check, they don't do a customer satisfaction survey on their product to see if industry actually uses their product. There are very few education institutions, there are, but there are very few that actually keep track of their people after they've left the university, to see whether industry fires them, whether they promote them, or whatever happens to them. And what then happens is they wait until a person like Yancy comes along and says, yeah, look how fantastic Yancy is. She studied at this university, so this university is very good. And they forget about the other 9,999 people that couldn't get to the stage where Yancy ended up, just as an example, of course. So now, this is what we're sitting with: the chemical department, the electrical department, mechanical, and unfortunately, they don't want to share resources. The electrical people don't want you to take the mechanical people, and the mechanical people don't want you to take their people, etc. And what we need to happen is this. And only once we do that, we will be able to get South Africa going. Now let's look at what the President says. Ramaphosa said, we have to reimagine and build South Africa. We yearn a South Africa of our dreams. If we want to build South Africa of our dreams, we better find out what that is. And the Minister of Basic Education, this is her priorities. This is fantastic. The only question, The only question we have is, has she spoken to industry? Has industry told her what they want so that she can do this? Or is this something that she is just hoping will work out fine? A world-class assessment system, which is fantastic. What did the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology say? The department is already developing a skills master plan in response to the known skills demand associated with fourth industrial revolution. This plan will be complemented by a national list of occupations in high demand and the critical skills list. Through the National Skills Fund, we have made available 150 million, etc., to address industry requirements. Now, we represent more than 31 companies who actually supply automation equipment. And we don't know of any survey or anybody in our team that was contacted to find out what the fourth industrial revolution actually requires. So this is, sounds like, I'm not saying it is, but it sounds like the experiment they did on the grasshopper, where they told the grasshopper to jump and the grasshopper jumped. Then they pulled off one of its legs. And eventually, after the last leg was pulled out, it no longer jumped. And they came to the conclusion that a grasshopper's ears are on its feet. So now I would just like to addressing the issue, which is actually what this afternoon's lesson is all about. I've got a lot of examples. I'm not going to go through them just for the sake of time. This is the Automation Federation, which was set up in the United States, and there's more than 130 countries that are members of this. Various automation specialization categories, and South Africa said we will assist in factory automation and process automation. There is building automation and all the other stuff, but we're only going to look at those two. This is the automation competency model that was set up, and these are the qualifications that they defined. Now, an advanced control engineer, currently they took about 7 engineering positions, combined them and said they will call this the advanced control engineer. And they did the same for all the others. Now, each of these have got alternative titles, they've got a description, they've got source material on how to educate these people, and they've got performance domains. What do you require of these different automation disciplines? And this is how it looks. You've got several performance domains. Each of these performance domains have got tasks, and each of the tasks have got knowledge, and they've got skills already allocated to them. So we're going to use that to educate people in automation. Now, you can't just go and suck a curriculum out of your thumb. You have to go and find out exactly what is already available and see if you can fine-tune that. The International Society of Automation in America has got 2 qualifications already, the one for engineers, the other one for technicians. And we'll use the Automation Federation competency model plus these 2 qualifications to draw up curriculums for this degree. I just want to mention a couple of examples. Very few graduates have ever seen a pipe and instrumentation diagram. This is the basic tool that automation people need to do factory automation, to process automation. Little knowledge of equipment sizing and equipment limitations, area classifications, project management that doesn't look at risk and calculations. And these are the type of things that we are slowly working into. We've been working with one of the universities now. And what we found is that if they are busy developing a mechatronics qualification. So what they do is they take the mechanical curriculum and then they ask the electrical guys to provide them with subjects so that they can have a mechatronics. Now, unfortunately, what then happens is the electrical guys say, I've got these 4 subjects, so we'll give you subject number 1 and number 3. And then that is how mechatronics develops. What should happen is they should go to industry and say, listen, you need mechatronics people working in your industry. What do they need from electrical department in their mechanical qualification if you want to keep it under mechanical? So what we did is we went to the Engineering Council of South Africa and we said we needed a 10th discipline. After 3 or 4 years of discussions, they said, okay, we accept that there is something, a requirement for automation. What we will do is we will create a specialized category first. What this means is that all the existing people can qualify as an automation specialist by adhering to the requirements that we're putting down for the automation specialist. That will give us time to develop the TVET, the diploma, the degree, and the engineering degree qualifications for automation. So we are very excited that there are universities that have already started assisting us. They've got issues like any company has. First one is some lecturers are so old, they're going to retire next year, and why should we now start this new thing? Others are, listen, I know nothing about that, I know my subject, I'll teach my subject. So, but the young engineers and some of the more mature ones, they are very willing to learn the new skills and with the new equipment, etc. But it's a lot of work and it's not going to happen overnight. Thank you. If there are any questions, please.